Hi, this is David Orlofsky, and welcome to the Parsha in 5, where in 5 minutes we try to give you a thought for the Parsha, and this time I'm going to have to do it for 2 Parshios, Tazria-Metzora. Yeah, same 5 minutes, but 2 Parshios to tie the two of them together. Tazria-Metzora, what links together Tazria-Metzora? Well, there's a Rashi right at the beginning that says, what is the difference between Parshas Shmini and Parshas Tazria, and by extension, Metzora? Parshas Shmini has the Tuma of animals, the different shrotzim that are unclean, the unclean animals, and nevela, things like that. And now Tazria-Metzora is the human Tuma. And we cover within it, apparently, all of the human Tuma. What do we have? Well, we have woman after childbirth. We have a Metzora, person who is suffering from tzara'as, some sort of a spiritual affliction, and it becomes tameh, and it could affect him and his clothing and his house. We have a zav and a zava, people who have some sort of discharge. We have a balkeri, a man who has a seminal discharge, and nida, a woman who is having her period. All of these are forms of human tumah. And all of this is covered in Tazria-Metzora, which to me seems absolutely amazing, because since we're using human tumah, and as the Chazal tell us, all tumah has its source in death. A Metzora is kimes, it's considered like someone dead. Nida is described as a whisper of death, right? All tumah has its source in death. How come we don't talk about a dead person? That would seem to me to be the most important part of death. That doesn't come up until Parshas Chukas. We don't deal with that. So I want to suggest, because when we introduce the human tumahs over here, all of human tumah is for one thing: to make a person stop and think. A yoledes has to bring a korban afterwards, and she brings a bird. Why? Because just like a bird chirps, it could be that she said things in childbirth that she did not mean. Certainly, we husbands hope that they didn't mean it. Yeah. So she said things without thinking. How do you become a balkeri? It's called the mikra balayla. It happened to you in your sleep because you thought about things during the day that caused this to happen. How do you become a zav or a zava, says the Sefer Chinuch? Because you're living to excess, you're eating too much, you're doing other things too much, and that throws your body off. How do you become a Metzora? You spoke about other people thoughtlessly. And because people don't think, that leads to Tuma. As the Gemara says, how do you become Tameh? Just don't think. If you're not thinking, I remember when I was a kid and we would go to school and they would say, okay, wash in school and you'll make hamotzi on the bus. And everybody's walking like this, like a doctor going into surgery. Because we know that if you drop your attention, all you have to do to become Tameh is stop thinking about it. If you go to the mikvah to be able to eat shlomim, and then you had hesach hadas, you stop thinking about it, you have to go to the mikvah again. All it takes is not to think to become tameh. But to become taha, you have to think. There is a process involved. And therefore, a zav and a zava have to count shiva nikiyim. You have to stop and think. The Metzora, we lock him up for a week, says the Sefer Chinuch. Think about what you did. If that doesn't work, we lock you up for another week. If that doesn't work, we kick you out of the machna. Go outside. And if you come back in and you finally figured it out, it takes a whole week to become taha, because you have to think about it. Tahara comes about through thinking. When you're dead, you're not thinking anymore. Yeah, it's too late. Right? And cheshbon v'das bekeva shata holech. There's no more thinking. There's no more growth. That's it. When you're dead, it's over. But while you're alive and you're like dead, it gives you an opportunity to stop and think. What did I do that put me into a state of Tuma? And how can I get out of the state of Tuma? The only way is by thinking and by concentrating and by working on it. And that's why during this time of the year, when we're getting ready to go to Har Sinai, we have to go from the 49th level of Tuma to the 49th level of Kedusha. How do we do that? We count. And that's what Rav Dessler says. When do we have a mitzvah to count? A Zav and a Zava has a mitzvah to count. And during Sfiras HaOmer, we count to be able to get us to concentrate and to think, because the only way to achieve Tahara is by thinking and being conscious. And all of the tumas are designed for us to stop and think what caused this. And when we stop thinking, we become tameh. And that's why, except for death, when there's no more thinking and no more ability to repair, that's the avi avos hatuma. That's the source of all tuma. But on a lower level, we can think, and through that, bring ourselves, Emir Hashem, to a state of Tahara. Shabbos.